Hello class 9, welcome back to the class once again. In the previous chapter, we studied about Renaissance, its meaning and the causes that were responsible for Renaissance. What is Renaissance? It was the revival of the study of ancient classical works of the Greeks and the Romans. And the various factors that were responsible for Renaissance that took place mostly began in Italy and spread to different parts of Europe from 14th to 17th century. So we saw the causes of Renaissance in the previous class. Today we will see the impact of Renaissance on art, literature and science. Before we proceed with the chapter, or before we proceed with the impacts, what you need to understand is that during the medieval period, that is in Europe, the medieval period in Europe was dominated and controlled by the church. Whatever the church said, people had to do it. And whatever the church said, it was wrong for the people. So people actually did not have the liberty to think freely, do things on their own. But what happens is, once Renaissance begins, now people start going against the authority of the church. A spirit of inquiry comes into existence. Spirit of inquiry comes into existence. Now they want to relate the facts. The medieval period was a period where the church dominated. Everything revolved around the religion. Whatever art and architecture, the paintings and drawings were done, it was done in order to preach and teach religion. Scenes from the Bible were taken and drawn on. All this was done in order to teach and preach religion, and nobody could go against the teachings of the church. But once Renaissance began, now a spirit of inquiry came into existence. They started questioning things. They started finding out the facts, because now the classical Greek and Roman works are available to the people. So what happens? People go down to the basics. And one of the simple things those days believed was that the earth was the center of the solar system and all the other heavenly bodies moved around the earth. That was the teaching those days by the church. But when Renaissance began, what we call astronomers, like what we call Copernicus, refuted the theory. He proved that it is not the earth but the sun which is the solar center of the solar system, and everything bent around the earth. These were some of the inquiries made, studies made. So when Renaissance began, there was a lot of development in the field of art, literature, science, etc. So we are going to understand first the impact of what you call Renaissance on art. Mostly the feature. What kind of feature, what we call new changes were brought because of Renaissance. Now first thing was new ideas. New ideas and attitudes were portrayed. I'm telling you the features, the impact of Renaissance. Earlier, medieval period, art was based on religion. Okay? They are mostly symbolical. They depend on symbolism. But what happens? Now, because of Renaissance, new ideas, attitudes get portrayed through art and the painting. Second one, what happens? Now, medieval, as I told you, medieval artists gave importance to symbols or symbolism. Like if you see in Buddhism, when you talk about Sanchistupa, to explain it, in and around the Sanchistupa, Buddha is portrayed through symbols such as the peepal tree, the lotus, etc. Likewise, in Europe also, lot of symbols were used in order to preach religion. Whereas the Renaissance artists, what happened? They were painting and all their lifelike. They were more or less real. They painted or came up with the arts in such a way that an artist could portray what it actually looked like, because things were there in the history and most of the things were biblical. Now if you see the book there, there's a painting Last Supper. The Last Supper, the painting Last Supper, drawn or painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and his famous sculpture painting Mona Lisa. Lot of emotions are attached to it. Lot of new ideas were put forward by who? Leonardo da Vinci. So this is what happens is, he imagined such a way that when Jesus Christ along with disciples stayed for the Last Supper, how would they have seated? How would it look like? So therefore what happens? They were more like light. They were more what? Like light. And contain the point of view of a painter or an artist. And it was based on reality. It was based on reality. Now, next one. The Renaissance artists were influenced by humanism. Human being, human anatomy now was more important, and many people were very curious to know about it. Now, the subjects of painting mostly were real and based on humanism, the human needs, their lives, their anatomy, and what you call their ability. All these things were portrayed through the Renaissance art. The next one, as I told you, the theory of humanism came into existence. As such, the Renaissance artists took a lot of interest on the study of human anatomy. Because of the Renaissance, people better understood the human anatomy. Are you getting? So what happens in the paintings and in the sculptures and all? Emotions of people were portrayed. Okay? These are some of the features of the Renaissance or art. Now when we go to literature, let's say we'll go to the literature now. Impact of Renaissance on literature. Till 14th century, most of the things were written in Latin. And when the scholars fled away from Constantinople, they came out with the works to Italy, and they were mostly translated to Latin. Now, because of the invention of the printing press by Gutenberg in Germany, books and all these theories, what other studies were made, were printed in large volume, and that encouraged people to learn more. Now, Latin was not understood by the common people. So therefore, because of Renaissance, there was a great impact on literature that led to the development of vernacular languages. Vernacular languages, the local language of the people in Europe started developing. Okay, the people now understood the words which were in Greek and Latin were translated into the vernacular languages. So that there was a revival. And in this time period, new what you call personalities, the laureates in the field of literature came into existence. One of them to mention was Machiavelli. Machiavelli, it's there in the book. His one of the great work was the work known as The Prince. This book dealt with the political conditions that prevailed in Italy. And through this book, Machiavelli told that political matters should be separated from religion. Likewise, we have another great person, what we call modern Francis Bacon. Then the common one which you know very popular, you read the work of that person, that is William Shakespeare. They came out with their great works, with the new ideas, new creativity, and so on. In brief, Renaissance had an impact on literature as well, because of Renaissance, a lot of development in the vernacular took place in Europe from 15th to 17th century. That gave birth to great artists like personalities like Machiavelli, Francis Bacon, and William Shakespeare, who came out with their great works, which even today is studied and gone through it. The next one what we see, the other one we mention is because of the development of vernacular language. In the later chapter we'll study about Martin Luther. He translated the Bible into German. Bible was originally written in Latin Hebrew, but it was translated towards the German language. Are you getting it? So these are some of the names which are there in the book. Please do go through it. You need to know one or two quotes of Machiavelli, Francis Bacon, what was his contribution, William Shakespeare, what was his contribution. The books are all written by them. Okay, one or two I have mentioned with regard to the prince. Okay, the next one we'll see the field of, let's say, literature with it, art with it. Now, in the field of science. Field of science, a lot of development took place from 15th to 17th century because of Renaissance in the field of science, such as physics, mathematics, chemistry, astronomy. All development took place, and especially stress was placed on the human anatomy. As mentioned before, Copernicus came out with a theory refuting the teaching of the church that the earth is the center. He proved that sun is the center of the solar system and all other heavenly bodies move around it. Likewise, we have Isaac Newton, who came out with a theory of gravitation. So likewise, there were many developments in the fields of what we call science, in medicine, in physics, chemistry, maths, and so on. Now, next one with regard to, if you see, the paintings, lot of painters came into existence. Along with the painters, there are sculptures also. Their subject of painting and sculptures were based on the human subject. They were real. And their works were more or less like life. And emotions were portrayed through their painting and through their art. Then you know about Leonardo da Vinci, who's great for the Last Supper, the painting Mona Lisa. Likewise, we have what you call Michelangelo, and one of the great sculptors at that time was Lorenzo Ghiberti. Lorenzo Ghiberti. He made two doors, two pairs of bronze doors for a Baptist church in Florence. And it was made in such a way that later on Michelangelo commented that these doors are so exquisite, so beautiful, so real that they are supposed to be placed not here on earth but on the doors of heaven. So these are some of the important works in the field of painting, sculpture, architecture, and so on. So if you go through the textbook, we have certain personalities like Michelangelo, Raphael is there, whose one of the great work was Sistine Madonna, where Mother Mary is sitting on with her son's dead body on her chest. Okay? Then we have the Pietà also. So these are certain things which you need to know from this chapter. So class, once again, finally I'll just revise it briefly. What you need to know, the causes, which are quite important. Then the impact of Renaissance in the field of art, science and literature. The features of Renaissance art, the modern art, because of Renaissance I have mentioned it, they came up with new ideas and attitudes, then they were more real, lifelike and so on. Stress was laid on humanism, etc. I have mentioned it and written it in the board before. Then in the field of literature, what happened? A lot of development took place in the vernacular languages the works were all translated into the vernacular languages. As such, now people could read them, study them easily. And in the field of, let's say we go to painting and sculpture, in the medieval period it was mostly based on religion and symbols. The painters, medieval painters, artists could only paint and draw what was allowed by the church and what was told by the church, and this was done only with the point of view to preach religion. Because of Renaissance, now people started going against the teachings or the authority of the church. A spirit of inquiry developed, and new styles of painting, architecture came into existence. Then we saw some of the work in the field of great personalities who came up with great works like Machiavelli, who came up with the work The Prince. Then we have Francis Bacon, William Shakespeare. Then we also saw in the field of painting and what called sculpture like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Ghiberti, etc. So this much you need to know from this chapter, and I want you all to do all the exercises, especially the textbook itself. There are around 20-21 questions. Please do write the answers in the textbook itself. Wherever a long answer is required, you may please write it in your exercise book. So till then, stay safe, take care. The next class will start with a new chapter. And if you have any doubts, anything not clear, please do interact me with the class group. Thank you.